It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
They once called him a mogul, a visionary, the man who shaped the sound of a generation. But on day 2 of the trial, that carefully polished legacy shattered as Cassie Ventura stepped onto the witness stand, calm, confident, and devastating. The room tensed. Diddy, once in control of everything and everyone, looked shaken the moment her voice echoed through the courtroom. What followed wasn't just testimony, it was an unmasking, a dismantling of power, a decade of buried secrets now bleeding into the open. Cassie didn't hold back, and Diddy, he couldn't hide.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. He said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
For decades, Diddy walked through the world like a titan. Bad Boy Records wasn't just a label, it was an empire. His image, sharp suits, charisma, discipline. His brand, flawless. But as Cassie began testifying, that brand started to collapse in real time. She described in chilling detail how he orchestrated her life, from what she wore to who she slept with, to the lighting in the room. Yes, the infamous freak-offs. According to Cassie, he groomed her into them, starting when she was barely 21. Too young, too eager to please, and too vulnerable to see the trap she was walking into. She told the jury it wasn't desire that drove her, it was fear, confusion, and survival. And now, for the first time, jurors weren't just hearing about the 2016 hotel assault, they were seeing the machinery of manipulation that made it possible.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, "He would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down." She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
The courtroom was dead silent as Cassie described the emotional tug-of-war she endured. When prosecutors asked if she ever looked forward to the freak-offs, she hesitated, then admitted she did, but only because it meant one-on-one time with Diddy. That single sentence said it all. It wasn't enjoyment, it was conditioning, a pattern, a dynamic where love was weaponized and control disguised as affection. She admitted she was young, naive, and hopelessly in love with someone who used that love as leverage. She spoke of signing a 10-album deal, of chasing a dream that quickly became a cage. After the first freak-off, she said she felt ashamed. She didn't want to do it again. She even tried to start a conversation about it over emails the jury saw, but Diddy shut it down, flipping the guilt back on her. From that moment, Cassie said, she realized it didn't matter what she wanted. It only mattered what he demanded. And then the violence came. She testified about being slapped, stomped, dragged. She said it happened so often, so routinely, that setting up freak-offs became a job. She claimed Diddy used fear, retaliation, and even blackmail to keep her compliant. One breath at a time, she relived it all on that stand. Meanwhile, Diddy sat stone-faced at the defense table until even that began to crack.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
Then came the moment that pierced the entire courtroom. Cassie's voice trembled as she said, I thought I was going to die that night. She was talking about an incident no one had ever heard about, Not the press, not the fans, not even the blogs. According to her, it happened at the Four Seasons. What began as a music industry afterparty spiraled into a nightmare. She said Diddy became enraged when he saw her talking to another man. His charm vanished. He gripped her arm so tightly it left bruises, whispering threats while smiling for the cameras. Cassie described how he dragged her through the lobby, crying, resisting, until hotel security approached. But the moment the guard recognized Diddy, he backed off without even asking if she was okay. And then came the photos. Blurry, raw selfies Cassie took in the bathroom mirror the morning after. Bruised arms, a swollen lip, red marks on her neck. Diddy's lawyers tried to block them. The judge said no. The images flashed across the screen. A juror covered her mouth. Another turned away. You could feel the oxygen leave the room. And Diddy, he looked rattled. His lawyers flipped through binders. The press scribbled in overdrive. Cassie said he destroyed the hotel room that night, threw a bottle, broke furniture, punched walls. But worst of all, she claimed he kept her locked in that room for 2 days, took her phone, and threatened her if she called for help. This wasn't just emotional testimony, it was tactical, devastating. And Diddy had no defense prepared because he never saw it coming.
The defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual, it may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now, but I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
The courtroom was still reeling when Cassie dropped the next bomb. She had recordings, actual audio files of Diddy threatening her and her family if she ever spoke. When the audio played, something snapped. Diddy stood up and shouted, "You know that's not how it happened." The court erupted. His lawyers physically pulled him back. The judge called for an emergency recess, but it was too late. Everyone saw it. The jury, the reporters, even the security detail. The mask was off, but Cassie wasn't done. She revealed she had stored evidence for years, texts, emails, even messages from other celebrities who witnessed Diddy's behavior. Messages like, "You okay? What I saw tonight wasn't right," or "This isn't normal, please call me." Diddy's own words appeared on the courtroom screens. Apologies, bribes, cover-ups. You know how I get when I drink. It won't happen again. Whatever you want. Car, apartment, clean break. His entourage began quietly exiting the room. The confidence he walked in with was gone, and by the end it was just Diddy, alone with his lawyers, drowning in evidence. So now the world's watching and asking the one question that really matters. Not will Diddy win or lose in court, but can his image, his empire, his legacy ever recover? You tell us. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because what just happened in that courtroom wasn't just history, it was a reckoning. And we've only seen the beginning.